There is a statistic that after 3 generations, wealth disappears, essentially. And it's each wealth transfer from generation to generation, it dilutes because there's not as much hard work behind it. My job in that is to make sure my daughter understands what she's living in. And what that looks like is she will not have free access to make something happen out of nowhere.
Welcome to Frankly Fatherhood, where we will discuss and explore all things fatherhood. Today, I have a special guest. He is an entrepreneur, he's a husband, a father, and a friend. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Noah Estrada. Let's jump right in, of course, because I don't want to waste any time on this interview. The first thing that comes to mind is the fact that you grew up in a really big family.
I did.
A really big family. So tell me what a day in the life looks like for a man like you, a child teenager, to grow up with 9 siblings?
9 siblings.
9
Yep.
siblings. Okay, so please.
Yeah, a lot of noise. A lot of noise, a lot of craziness.
Mm-hmm.
Really, honestly, a day in the life was waking up and kind of being on your own. I mean, you know, you're in a room full of people, but you're on your own, you know? So me, I was a big outdoors person, so it's always outside. And oftentimes I would have some siblings out there with me, other times not, but that was kind of like it's where I felt inspired, was just being outside, playing, and being in nature. So I was homeschooled for pretty much my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So that would look like 2-3 hours of work, usually homeschooling, and then the rest of it was outside.
Was outside schooling?
Outside schooling.
Yeah. And so you were saying that sometimes it can feel like you're surrounded by people, this chaos, but at the same time, you're not.
Yeah.
You're kind of starting to learn yourself a little earlier, having to be independent, having to figure out things on your own, which could be an extremely valuable skill.
Absolutely.
Right? Where you're having to learn how to problem solve. You're having to learn how to figure things out. And I know you said something in another conversation we had about your dad and how he never got on to you about playing with his tools.
Yeah.
He'd always let you get into his tools. And I always found that just fascinating to me because some dads don't want that stuff to be touched.
Yeah,
so,
fair enough.
But that wasn't your dad at all.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, and maybe some of it was just the busyness of having 10 kids, but honestly, my parents were very flexible in letting us explore and figure out who we were as people. And of course, like you said, with having such a full house, you're around everybody, but, you know, you're kind of independent and learning and growing as your own person, you know, so.
Okay. And so you'd say or would you say that has led you to becoming the entrepreneur you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it breeds resourcefulness, resilience. You know, there's no secret that in a house that big and that full, there are times where you're not the attention, you know? So I think a lot of times people look at that in a negative light, but I think for me, it really birthed my exploration. It helped me to problem solve at a very young age. And, you know, not that I would ever do that to my kid at this point, but it is part of my life, and, you know, it really, I would say, shaped a big part of who I am today, you know.
The way your dad provided for you opened up.
Yeah.
You being a risk taker.
Absolutely.
You being an entrepreneur, because that's what it is, right? Being able to take risk. I don't know near as much as you do.
Wow.
I do know this, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur, you know, but I do know this. It's a fundamental aspect of being an entrepreneur is you got to be willing to take risks. You got to be willing to fail.
Absolutely.
right? And so your dad being that kind of provider has helped kind of shape that in a way.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what does the word provider mean to you? And has that meaning changed since you've become a dad?
I think to really answer that question, like deep from my heart, I have to go back to my childhood and the way we were raised. Because, you know, while my parents did an amazing job at parenting us and providing for us, you know, we grew up less than well off, you know, so providing to me, it was have a roof over my family's head, make sure bills are paid, make sure there's money in the accounts, things like that. And that's very basic provision, right? That's the very bottom of the barrel of what we're supposed to provide as men to our wives, to our kids. But I really found when my daughter was born, you know, kind of at the same time, I was kind of rebirthing myself in a way of just forgetting a lot of the things I had learned from, you know, whether it be religion or different adults that have ingrained certain aspects of their life into mine, that providing kind of changed to be more about presence, like being there, the importance of my daughter feeling like, okay, yes, my dad provides for a house, for food, but he also provides me safety. He provides me knowledge, you know? So I think that's really what provision or providing means for me now is it's really that presence and that being there for my daughter and making sure emotionally she feels like she's the only person in the world.
Teaching her that there's more to her than how the world perceives her.
Absolutely.
So that she could grow into the best version of herself, as opposed to what a lot of people do, and most people, and it's because oftentimes we're creatures of habit, you know, it's our perception of that individual, and that's it. And if they get outside of that, that's off-putting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you want to teach your child that, okay, you have to be willing to push past that at the same time. I want you to use your brain. I want you to take risk. I want you to know that you are loved beyond anything you could even imagine. And you said safety, presence. I am here, and I love that. That's extremely valuable. You built something from nothing, and your child has the opportunity, because of the work you do and your wife, to grow up with so much more. This hunger stemming from your childhood is what made you who you are.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? And then the following question would be, how are you fostering an environment that produces a healthy hunger and resilience for your child?
You know, I feel extremely blessed where I am today, you know, and I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that would say that they're not satisfied. And I would say that if this was all my life looked like for the rest of it, I won. You know, I have a beautiful wife, a beautiful child, a beautiful home, and the home is not even 1% of that. You know, it's really the family and what I've learned through the process of building something from nothing. You know, it builds a very unique resiliency to the world, to evil, really, if we go down the spiritual path of, you know, living a life as a Christian man in this world full of hate. You know, it really gives you a different perspective of everything. And I think for my daughter, like, you know, she will have the opportunity to take all of this. And I think the ways we're finding to do that in a healthy way is helping foster a atmosphere to where she doesn't have free access to instantly make something happen. For me, what that looks like, there is a statistic that I think after 3 generations, wealth disappears essentially, and it's the whole thing of each wealth transfer from generation to generation, it dilutes because there's not as much hard work behind it. And I want to leave a legacy behind that lasts for, ideally, I mean, the ultimate goal would be centuries. I mean, why not, So
That's a BHAG, right?
yeah, right. Like,
A
you never
big
know
ambitious-
what would be possible, but my job in that is to make sure my daughter understands what she's living in. I want to teach her that her mind is the most valuable asset she could possibly have. That if all this crumbled down tomorrow, if she has her mind and she has her resiliency, she could rebuild it all herself. And that is, hunger, it's not a lack of, a hunger is really just like the drive in your mind. Like, for me, that's what got me to where I am. It wasn't that there was a lack of something. It was just, I had a vision and a hunger to really see what I was capable of. And that's what I chased. And that's what I want for her. I want her to see that she has so much value in who she is as a person. And I want her to have the opportunity to chase what she's capable of herself. And I think that will build a very resilient person, a very honorable and respected person, who could take something like this and triple it, So that's my ultimate dream and vision for my daughter or my kids, is I want them to learn what it means. I want it to sit heavily in them that this is not normal, that this is birthed out of experiencing more than what the world has taught you is available.
A hunger is it's a drive.
Absolutely.
It is something in you you're hungry for that's based in talent, vision, hard work. You want her to build those fundamental things up before she before she gets to the wealth generation part. You want her to understand this is valuable. We take care of this, and we continue to build.
Yeah, absolutely.
And build the thing, build this over everything else, because there's no telling what'll happen. And if all this goes away, you want her to be prepared.
Absolutely.
Okay. So next question is, growing up, there were a lot of mouths to feed. This seems to be a theme. And attention is typically sparse in a large household, which you touched on a little bit earlier, where it's, there wasn't a lot of tension on me. That's why I was able to kind of do my own thing.
Yeah.
And so what have you carried forward to your child from watching your father in that environment, whether that be healthy or unhealthy?
There is a real loneliness that comes with a full house of just, you can't possibly give 10 kids the attention. I really give it to my parents. Like, they did a very, very good job given all the things that they faced through life. And I would never discount the work they put into raising us. There's definitely moments where, I felt like there was a lack of attention or a lack of comfort in certain situations. And I think that really birthed in me as a child just not the ability to really communicate how I was really feeling. It became a trait of mine to really hold things in. And that's something I've had to learn to let go of in my adult life. But so I think that's the way it affected me as a child. What I take from that today is my daughter needs me above everything. if a business is crashing and burning, let it burn. I'll build another. But she needs my presence. She needs me to look her in the eyes. She needs me to sit with her and help her to know that if anything ever goes awry, if life gets to the absolute bottom, she can always call her dad. And her dad is there. He's present with her. He's not just emotionally there, but he's physically there. There is a connection there, you know.
On multiple levels.
Yeah, that's really what I focus on a lot. I do some research and just make sure I'm very intentional that she knows, you know, how much she's loved, how much there is a connection there, and it won't go anywhere, you know. I think it really goes back to what I was saying earlier, just safety and comfort, you know. A child needs that. You know, I grew up, I would say, with great parents, amazing parents, but there are things that you can't hit on, you know, when you have 10 kids in a house. So I feel like I'm taking forth to my child what I felt was lacking in my own childhood.
That's your cycle.
Yeah.
That you're breaking.
Absolutely.
Right? Is I get to take to my child the sense of presence. It's just not possible in a 10-child household. That said, you're also, I've noticed this and I respect this, that you're not vilifying your parents because of something lacking, because you're respecting the fact that every generation is lacking to some degree.
Absolutely.
And the hope is that our children could pick up that which is lacking in us.
Yeah.
And so your provider is safety, knowledge, presence. And then you said something that I just loved, and that is providing our children with the understanding that there is no free access.
Yeah.
You want them to be able to work for it, to develop that resilience and that endurance.
Yeah.
Because life, there's very easy moments, and then there's moments where it can feel very stressful. And then lastly, you said, look, I used to hold things in, and that was from that. And sometimes I can bring that into my relationship with my family, and that's something that I'm working on so that that's not the case.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to be more open, and in turn, be more present on multiple levels. So I love all of that. And so I'm curious, if I was to say, frankly, fatherhood is, and you were to respond with one word that sums up this interview, sums up your fatherhood journey, what would that be?
I would say it's covering.
Covering.
Yeah.
Covering. Well, you heard it. Follow us for more fatherhood content on Frankly Fatherhood, because frankly, fatherhood is covering.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Appreciate you, man.